and welcome to the fifth episode of the Practical PM, your friend, philosopher, and guide to product management. In the last two episodes, we have looked in details how we break down a problem in order to solve it. You may have noticed that when we break down the problem, there are lots of questions that we ask. There are many pieces of information that we need. In this episode, we are going to focus on the nitty-gritties of how we answer those questions. To answer any relevant product or business question, you first need to understand the different kind of data that is available at your disposal. And you also need to know what are the tools and techniques you can use to make sense of that data and arrive at an answer. When it comes to data, there can be two types of data, quantitative and qualitative. I'm sure these do not need any definitions. And when you are working on a product, the data can come from many different sources. So you can have core product native data. This is the data that is there in your product by design. For example, if it is an e-commerce product, you would have data about the orders. You would have order number, the products that have been ordered, the customer who has ordered the product, and all kinds of information about the customer, the prices of the product, the shipping price, the shipping city, etc. Then core product can give you other kinds of data as well. One of the very important ones is events data. Events data is not native to the product. It is consciously designed and generated for the purpose of product analytics. And the use of this kind of data is also inherently tied to the event analytics tool we use. Tools like Mixpanel and Amplitude are used. So if you have not used any of these tools in the past, then this kind of data may not be familiar to you. But don't worry, this is very important for product management and product analytics. So we will devote an entire episode to discussing events data and how it is to be analyzed. Core product can give you some other kinds of data as well. For example, recordings. In digital products, it is possible to integrate solutions which record the sessions of the users as they interact with your product. These recordings can be invaluable source of inputs on the product, especially qualitative inputs on UX and UI. Then some of these recording solutions also provide visualizations like heat maps so that you can make sense of this data in quantitative manner. Moving beyond the core product, you may get data from all the peripheral systems that you use to serve your customers apart from the core product itself. For example, the system that your customer support team uses, or any ERP or CRM systems that you use, or any of the customer engagement platforms that you have integrated with, or any of the attribution products that you use for traffic attribution, and so on. Then there is data that you will receive as direct inputs from the users. And with this, I do not mean the data that they give when they are interacting with your product, but otherwise. For example, you may have many regular and ad hoc surveys that you send to the users. Many companies send regular surveys to gauge how happy their users are with their product. Then you can also send out surveys for feedback on individual features or offerings. You may conduct user interviews. You may also conduct user research. The output of all of that will be user input data. And then finally, you may have external macro market data about the competitors, industry trends, customers, etc. So you have all these sources of data that you can use for answering your questions. Now, the list that I have here is just illustrative. I'm sure you can come across many other different examples of data sources which may or may not fit into these boxes, and that is fine. But even as an illustrative list, it is fairly comprehensive, and it at least tells you where to start looking for data to answer your questions. So now when the data is coming from all these sources, how do you access it for analytics so that you can answer your questions? So the data can of course reside in the individual system that it comes from. So your product native data will typically be in a relational database. Your customer support data may be in Zendesk. You might be using MailChimp for sending marketing mails, so your email data will be there. You might have connected with a system like Braze or CleverTap for user engagement, so your notification data will be there, and so on. Then in any modern organization, there is going to be a infrastructure for data warehousing, which is like one source where data from all these individual systems is supposed to follow. So your analytics can be done on top of this single source of data. Now in an ideal case, we would want literally every piece of data to be present in the warehouse, and in most cases most important pieces of data will be there. However, there may be cases when it will not be available in data warehouse and you will have to go back to the individual systems to access that data. Why would that happen? Firstly, certain kinds of data may not even make sense in data warehouse. For example, qualitative data, the user session recordings or interview transcripts from users, or the reports of user research. All of that, even if flown to data warehouse, is not usable in any meaningful way there, because data warehouses are typically meant for quantitative analysis. So they can stay in their individual systems. Then in other cases, you may have to do cost benefit analysis, because for example, the technical effort involved in flowing data from certain systems to warehouses may be significant, and the analytics benefit may not be that high. Then when you are using third-party systems here, sometimes they may charge extra for piping that data to your data warehouse, and again you will have to see if that extra cost is worth it. Finally, some of these individual systems may have their own analytics built in, which is specific to the pieces of data that that system has. And then that may be helpful in answering some of the specific questions you have, so you may end up going to individual systems for that. So now we understand data and accessibility, so let's move on to the tools and techniques that we use to make sense of this data. And the first thing I want to talk about there is the analytics setup, which is primarily meant for analyzing quantitative data. Now, among the various components of an analytics setup in an organization and even in a product organization, I have put event analytics in the top of the list. In the traditional analytics setup, this is often ignored as it is not that well known. That unfortunately is a big loss for product organization, because event analytics, when set up well, makes product analysis very fast. It is a system that can give you answers about things like retention or funnels much faster than SQL or programmatic analysis or any other analysis technique that you will use. Apart from being fast and insightful, event analytics is also something that is practically usable by anybody in the organization. So if any kind of question can be answered through event analytics, it should be done. And like I said, we will devote an entire episode to this. Then there is SQL analytics. This is pretty much the basic analysis setup that any organization must have. In its most rudimentary form, it may be a set of analysts running SQL queries from their terminals and directly hitting the production database or a dump of that database. In its most sophisticated form, it may be BI tools, business intelligence tools like Looker or Tableau or Power BI, running on top of sophisticated data lakes where all your data is flowing from different systems. Somewhere in between, you may use a visualization tool like Metabase on top of data warehouse, which is built on Amazon, Google or Azure Infra. Then you have programmatic analysis. There are times when SQL may not give you the answers you need because it is too complicated, or the queries are becoming so complex that writing, managing and debugging them is a nightmare. In these cases, you would want to use a full-fledged programmatic language for your analytical questions. Python is pretty much the language of choice these days. Python scripts will typically run on the same data lake or warehouse on which your SQL queries run. If you use things like Jupyter Notebook, then this kind of analysis becomes more shareable and accessible. And in more sophisticated systems, your BI tool or data management tool may give you a functionality so that programmatic analysis can also be run automatically and the reports or dashboards can be updated. So when you are solving an actual problem, you will probably end up using a combination of these different kinds of setup depending on all the questions that you have to answer. Between these three, for SQL and programmatic analytics, unless you are playing the role of the analyst yourself, you will end up taking help of a data or product analyst in your team. But event analytics is something that you should be able to do on your own, and I'm sure you will be able to after we have come to our episode on this topic. I will end this episode here. In the next episode, we will continue with the same theme. We will take examples of some of the questions we asked during problem breakdown and see which kind of analytics setup can help us answer it. So that's all for now. Thank you for watching. Do tune into the next episodes as well.